Hello, and welcome back to another video. If you're new here, I just recently perfected Stardew Valley for the first time ever here on YouTube, and I have returned to yap about Fields of Mistria, the most recent up-and-coming farming sim that seems to have everyone's attention. Fields of Mistria is a really compelling game in a lot of ways. I wouldn't have sunk nearly 80 hours into it if it weren't. With more updates being added to the game, Fields of Mistria is slowly stepping into its own, outside of the blueprint that we've come to expect from farming sim titles, and I think that's great. It's really shaping up to be its own unique experience. Just a few hints here and there that call back to major features of older genre mainstays, like the Harvest Moon series, now known as Story of Seasons, and even Stardew Valley. Fields of Mistria is still in early access, so of course there are areas to improve and more gameplay waited to be added to the game. I think Fields of Mistria could be made even better by taking more inspiration from the classics. So without further ado, here are 5 things I'd love to see included in Fields of Mistria before its full release, inspired by classic farming sim titles that influence the genre. To start us off, I'd like to talk about fishing. We love fishing in our farming sims, don't we? But in Fields of Mistria, there's a lot to be desired here, as it's pretty, well, empty. And in some ways, I actually like how fishing went back to its roots. You just point and click, nothing more to it. It reminded me a lot of Harvest Moon and Animal Crossing, except Animal Crossing requires some button mashing to spice it up a little bit. It's still not as cool as Stardew's fishing minigame though, but there really isn't much of a reason to fish in Fields of Mistria aside from trading specific fish into the museum collections and selling them for a small profit. A very, very small profit. I'd love to see fishing become something more substantial and rewarding over time. A reason to keep doing it beyond the museum collections or filling out the fishing collections tab. I'm imagining a more in-depth system that requires specific equipment and skill level for specific fish. Perhaps players could catch bigger fish over time, and the more likely players could win potential fishing festivals in the future, if we ever get any. Just something to keep it interesting that goes beyond I need to complete my fishing almanac and the museum collection. Moving on to number 2. Fields of Mistria is the only farming sim I can think of that actually has animal breeding to the extent that it does, and I was so happy when I first found out about it. Stardew Valley doesn't have anything like it. The only farming sim I can think of that offers breeding gameplay is in the Story of Seasons Friends of Mineral Town remaster. Breeding actually increases affection levels with your animals. Higher affection means winning animal festivals, which is required to receive esteemed gold quality byproducts like eggs and milk from the animals on your farm. Breeding animals in Fields of Mistria works a bit differently though. Instead, breeding produces a wide range of color variety, and while I love this system, I'd love to see an animal breeding system that plays an even bigger role in Fields of Mistria. Just so we're all on the same page, here's how the breeding system works today. As I mentioned, there is a color rarity system with ranking tiers, starting at tier 1 and the max being tier 6. The current breeding formula is pretty simple. Breeding parents of the same tier color will typically result in offspring in the next tier rarity. The actual color of the offspring is randomly picked from all color variants of that tier. For example, a tier 1 parent and another tier 1 parent would result in a tier 2 baby, with increasing rarity all the way up to tier 6. A tier 1 parent and a tier 2 parent has the potential for a tier 3 baby, and so on. That sounds pretty fun, right? I thought so. But this is actually where my gripe with the breeding system comes in, because this color rarity system is purely for aesthetic purposes, meaning having a special tier 3 pink cow will not produce special milk like strawberry milk, which you might expect, and your tier 5 golden cow will not produce golden milk either. Instead, to receive golden quality byproducts, all you have to do is raise the affection of your farm animal to at least 8 hearts by breeding and petting to produce gold quality milk, eggs, wool, etc. This quality system doesn't utilize the breeding system that's already there. With the current system, all you have to do is buy a cow from Hayden and raise it to 8 hearts to produce golden quality milk for the extra 80 gold more than its standard variant. No breeding required. That's not a small amount of work just to have a special colored cow that produces the same quality milk as your tier 1 white cow. In the older farming sim titles, it's really quite fun and satisfactory raising your first cow into an award-winning member of your farm. But that's just not how it works in Fields of Mistria, and I was disappointed. I had such high hopes for a more complex breeding system in a farming sim, and I feel like Fields of Mistria is so close, but it just missed the mark. I'm basically proposing a mechanic where the color of the cow produces a special byproduct that should also mean an increased profit, which should also mean breeding should be much more progressional to achieve with increasing levels of difficulty, resulting in a more satisfactory outcome. A well-rounded, thoroughly integrated system. Number 3. Okay, so if you've been following along so far, you probably saw this one coming already. I would really love to see a star quality ranking of some sort for animal produce, crops, fish, and maybe even cooking and crafting. There are so many farming sim titles out there already that already have a quality system in place, and Fields of Mistria doesn't. I was just so shocked to see this. Since byproducts like eggs, milk, and wool sell for hardly anything, growing crops is the only thing that makes sense to bring in the cash right now. Using the crops you grow on your farm in cooking recipes and tossing those finished recipes into the shipping bin is also a great profit source too, and I do that a lot. I personally love how Harvest Moon and Stardew Valley have quality systems for animal produce and crops. It incentivizes growing and expanding your farm, and it just gives me so much to look forward to as a player. Spending the time to raise animals and crops that will one day determine the success of my farm is the name of the game, and bringing in a large harvest of S-tier crops to afford an expensive new building or tool is really satisfying in these games. That's kind of the whole point. Right now, Fields of Mistria is missing that quintessential slow grind feeling. It doesn't take a lot to get the ball rolling, as a lot of it is already accessible early on in the game. Number 4. Fields of Mistria has been slowly adding festivals to the game. At the time of this video, they've added 2, a spring festival and a summer festival. Obviously, the game needs more festivals, and it's something they're working on, but I have a few specific festivals in mind, and they all tie back to everything I've mentioned in this video so far. I think we need a crop festival that uses a quality system. Bringing the best crop on your farm for the season's entry could net you a ribbon to hang up in your farmhouse and other potential rewards. Imagine spending hours making enough money to upgrade your fields and showering your crops with fertilizer every day. It's not a small investment, but it pays off by beating Hayden at a crop festival. There are so many animals in Fields of Mistria too, and I'm really surprised we don't have an animal festival. Hey there, Editing Mooney here. So it looks like we are getting an animal festival in the second major update. Animals can be selected at the event, and they can win ribbons and trophies based off of what looks like their current affection levels. This is a good step in the right direction, but it would still be nice to also take quality level or breeding tier into account. Okay, back to the video. We have cows, horses, sheep, bunnies. How cool would it be to enter an award-winning member of your farm and be rewarded with a crafting recipe or a new cosmetic item, or I don't know, something else? But how are animal festivals going to exist if there really isn't a quality system for animals? And how are you going to win a crop festival when crops don't have an existing quality system? How are you going to win a cooking contest without a quality system? Okay, last one on the list. And what I'm proposing is way in the future. I want a perfection system in Fields of Mistria, something that really pushes the player to reach mastery in all of the skills this game has thrown at you. Blacksmithing, crafting, cooking, ranching, etc. There's a lot. The great thing about perfection is it's optional, and it exists for players who want perfection in their games. Something to strive for players who really want a challenge. Something that ties everything together and feels truly unique to the Fields of Mistria experience. I think this should exist after reaching the maximum town rank, whatever that ends up being, because we're currently in the dark about that. There's a town rank tab on the character main page, but who knows what that journey will end up being. I have a suspicion the town rank will eventually unlock better items in the game, or maybe even different areas, like what the heck is behind this door? But the game is still in early days. There are so many new items that have yet to be added, new areas, NPCs, etc., and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with it. There's just a lot of potential here. Overall, my current gripe with Fields of Mistria is a lot of the systems currently in place feel disjointed in a lot of ways. Elements of gameplay don't have synergy with one another, and they don't really fit together seamlessly. Maybe that's just early growing pains and they're figuring it out along the way, but the experience feels jarring at times, and I'd love to see these major gameplay features come together before early access comes to an end. Comparatively, Stardew has an impeccable way of tying elements of its gameplay together. Everything you do impacts something else to help you achieve something greater. It's a well-orchestrated system, and many of the classics like Harvest Moon also relied upon a complex web of interdependent mechanics. And at the moment, many gameplay elements in Fields of Mistria feel slapped together and disconnected. Fields of Mistria doesn't have to be Harvest Moon or Stardew Valley. I love that it's subtly including borrowed elements and fresh new ideas. I think they just have a lot of room to expand upon. And I would really like for Fields of Mistria to be more than just an easy cozy fix. Let me know about anything you think is missing from Fields of Mistria in the comments below. Did I miss something that you feel would add to your enjoyment of the game? Do you have a favorite feature from Harvest Moon or Story of Seasons that you feel might be missing in some way? Or are you a raving Fields of Mistria fan and you hated everything I had to say? Let me know, and feel free to come back and yell at me once the second major update drops. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye everybody.